Oh, hello from me and my ample cleavage today. I'm due for my period in a couple of days, so we just go straight in here. There's no airs and graces. We talk about all the things. It's how we roll. You're in my world now. So I'll give you a couple of minutes, as always, to jump on before we jump into the meat of the session. As always, say hello wherever you are, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay. I'm always excited to jump in and see what you guys are saying. I like to know what's happening. I like, you just get to watch me all anonymously and stuff. So it's nice to know who's there. One more minute. So if you're watching this on the replay, you can just skim ahead a little bit, unless you want to watch me take a couple of sips of tea. If that's your thing, feel free to stick around while I do that, where you can scrub ahead. So today I'm going to be talking about my journey with deconditioning the open solar plexus. And as with everything and every map or modality that I get interested in or that I use in my work, I don't feel that it's something that can just be learnt from a book, like anything that I do. Some people are really great picking up a book and reading and be like, oh yeah, I get this now. And even then, there's a difference between seeing the knowledge, seeing the information, consciously, logically, with your mind, understanding the information, like, oh yeah, I get that, I see how that could be true. And then applying it in your life and living it in your life and finding which pieces continue to resonate with you as you move forward and releasing the pieces that don't. Any map, modality, whatever can become dogmatic. I actually talk about this in this week's podcast. So if you haven't listened to that, I recommend listening to that. Self-development versus self-mastery is the title if you're coming to this live stream like a little bit after it was recorded. You can go and check out my Inner Work podcast. It's on all of the places where you can get podcasts. And you're looking for self-development versus self-mastery. And I just feel that with things like human design, it's very easy for people to pick up a book, to follow a lot of people online and see the memes, see the reels, think they know what human design is, get to applying it and be like, oh, this doesn't really work for me or whatever. And I'm not here to validate the modality, because you either like it or you don't, and that's not really any of my concern. It doesn't matter to me whether you like it or not. However, I love to use things that resonate with me as a path to more deeply understanding myself, my inner workings, where I might be blocking myself from life being more playful, more fun, more juicy, delicious, lighter, easier, right? More abundant, like more, I want things to happen faster. I want things to come to me faster. I want to lean into life more. I want to receive more delicious opportunities and things. I want to learn where... The reason that I really got into human design about 3.5, nearly 4 years ago, was because I could feel that though I was very gifted with the doing, it was getting to a point where I was starting to feel resentful that the level of doing that I was applying to my business wasn't really yielding what I perceived to be the results that should be yielding. It's like, but if the doing equals the receiving of the money or the clients or the success or the followers going up or the whatever, whatever result I was after at the time, if it's a case of just working more, just doing more, then it was like, why isn't this working? Why isn't this? I mean, it was working to an extent, but I would find that a lot of people would kind of talk about, being really consistent and doing things a certain way, and then I would get sucked into feeling like, oh, that's how I have to do it. So I think for me, human design kind of gave me a bit of a permission slip to start to see myself And to see the parts of myself that I was making wrong or trying to like correct, it helped me see that those parts are actually my superpowers when they're used in alignment. And they're also the superpowers that I kind of inject into other people's lives when they hear my words, when they resonate with my work, when they come and work with me. So, for example, like when I was a little kid, I was thinking about this today actually when I was on my way to the gym. I don't know why this popped in, but I have a defined throat, and I have my sacral is connected to my throat. So when I feel excited about something, I like want to speak about it, and generally that leads to me being more magnetic, or people who are meant to be magnetized towards me. When I speak from that place of being like lit up, like turned on by life, like tuned in and just like juiced up about something, that generally is when my throat is at its most potent. So I started to look at these things, and I realized like when I was a kid, those things like being a show, or like don't be a show off, you know, on one hand, don't be a show off, but then on the other hand, when I was, you know, performing and being silly and playing, it was like, oh, isn't she so fun and so silly and So I kind of got mixed messaging about my ability to perform, my ability to like charm and be playful and silly, even from such an early age. I remember getting really mixed messages about that. Like one minute I was dressing up as Madonna in my sister's. There's a picture of me in my sister's suspender belt, but I put it on like a bra because I was so excited. And I loved Madonna. So I was like, had the little lacy gloves, and I put this little thing on. And I was so diddy. I was only like a tiny little kid. And everyone thought, my family thought it was so cute that I was like, oh, mummy, you got this just for me. And like had my sister's little riding boots on that were way too big for me. And like this crazy curly hair, these massive eyes as this tiny little kid. Like it was super cute. I can understand why they were like, oh, it's adorable. But then when I would take that energy into places where they didn't feel it was appropriate, then I would get called a show off, or like I was, you know, being a little bit too much. So I got very mixed messages about the bigness of my energy, which when I found human design, I was like, oh, that's my gift. But fuck me, did that take time, man. That took time to really, and I feel like it's still a part of me that occasionally I will, you know, I will quiet down. I will lean back a little bit. And as I'm saying that, like I acknowledge that's also part of my design, the hermit, and, you know, to kind of also being a sixth line to like be a bit more of the observer sometimes. But when I'm really like tapped in and it's my time to step forward and shine, I very much feel that bigness of the energy. And so for some people it's really inspiring. For some people it's like, and they're motivated and they feel creative and excited after I've spoken. And other people I probably fucking do their heads in, right? They're probably like, oh my gosh, shut up, bitch. But neither of those reflections need to be any more important than I make them. If I enjoy feeling enlivened by what I'm, you know, whatever it is that I'm passionate about in any given moment, and I want to speak that passion out into the world, then why the fuck wouldn't I? So when I found these little threads in my human design, I was like, oh, there's something here. There's something in this map and this modality, this way of seeing myself that really resonated and really felt like a little, like, you know, a little permission slip from the universe to just like all those things that you think are bad, or all those things that you've been turning down a little bit, turn them the fuck up, you know? So that's one of the reasons why I got into being interested in the modality in the first place. As I dug deeper, I started to learn about the impact of the open or the undefined centers. So I'd love to know, those of you who are watching, I can see there's a few people, but I just made sure my comments are working, so say hello. I'd love to know, those of you who are watching, how many of you know that you have an open solar plexus, emotional solar plexus? And how many of you are like, no, mine's defined? So open or defined, everyone's welcome here. I don't discriminate against your open or defined centers. Hey, Kimberly! Hey, Joe! So effectively, this is the human design chart, right? And this might be in reverse for you, I don't know. But when you look at it, when you are looking at your chart, it will be on the right hand side. But obviously, as I'm showing it to you now, it might be a bit confusing. But this is the center we're looking at here. This one that's coloured in. If it's coloured in on your chart, that means it's defined. If it's not coloured in, that means it's open or undefined, right? So whether or not it's open or defined doesn't really matter in terms of what I'm going to be speaking to you, because you may still resonate, even if you're, a little fly just landed on me off a bit of my hair brushed, like, open baby, yes, just like me, Joe, just like me, open. So we can often be identified as like empaths, if you will, if you want to label people. And I feel like a lot of people who come to me, I used to find that a lot of people who came to work with me had a lot of, and still even now, you know, it's a thread, the kind of, the people-pleasy stuff would be going on in the background. And from an open solar plexus perspective, what that's really saying is like, we're amplifying the energy around us. And so we can feel how the other people are feeling around us. And that feels very uncomfortable in our bodies, because with an open solar plexus, you're kind of not really, you don't have consistent access to being able to like digest that energy. So for people with a defined center, it's really interesting, because quite a few of my clients have defined solar plexus, like, hey Martha, and Kimberly, yours is colored in, so it's defined, fab. So when people come to me with a defined solar plexus, it's so easy for me to just like tap in and be like, oh, okay. And it's like, I'm able to, with my open solar plexus, I'm able to feed back wisdom to them about the sensations and emotions that are moving through their system, because I'm able to feel them kind of like in an amplified way. So it's easier for me to be like, oh, wow, what's that sadness about? Or what's that, you know, anger about, or whatever. And often my boyfriend has a defined solar plexus, and we've been together for 12 years, like 12 years on Saturday. And it's really helped our relationship. Me understanding this one center has really helped me understand the dynamic of how to best operate when living with and being in relationship with someone who has that center defined. So if you are somebody who has that center defined and you're listening to this live stream thinking, oh, but mine's defined, so I don't know if this is relevant. If you have people in your life with that center open, by hearing what I'm about to say and by tuning into this live stream, you're going to learn how those people potentially feel. And I can't remember where I read this or where I saw this. I've seen this in a few places. This idea that the person with the defined solar plexus, so for example, like my boyfriend, I'll be like, oh, you okay? Who recognizes this pattern? You're right. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. Are you sure? I'm fine. Okay, cool. Because, you know, if you're not like, it's just, I can just kind of feel that there's something off. And my desire, because I could feel like, I'm fine, he walks in the room and suddenly I feel something, like I'm angry, I'm agitated, I'm sad, I'm like, where the fuck did that come from, right? Where the fuck did that come from? And it's because I'm intuitively sensing there's something wrong. But the thing is, and I don't have a defined emotional center, so I don't know if this is true or not, but I've read this in various places, that it's almost like they don't actually fully know what the emotion is that they're feeling sometimes, and we can almost pick up on it before they even feel it. So again, I don't know how much validity there is in that, but if our relationship is anything to go by, that would definitely be the case. It's almost like I can pick up on the aura of the emotion before it's even fully processed in his body and he knows he's feeling it. But this is the thing. It is my work to deal with how I deal with him either not knowing how he's feeling or not really fully understanding that he's feeling something, that's on me. For me to keep poking and probing, just being a pain in his ass, because I feel uncomfortable, that's my work. So the way that I have learnt to deal with that specific situation is, and I'm really, really so blessed and grateful. I have an amazing friend called Kelly, and she is in this Facebook group, I think, so you can probably find her, Kelly Greeno. But if you, she is a defined emotional center, and through our conversations and witnessing her, learning about her, I mean, she's, you know, so great with human design, and seeing how she shows up in her full understanding of her defined emotional center has helped me realize all of the times when I've tried to step in to like fix or process or alchemize someone else's emotional discomfort through my body. I mean, that is just asking for trouble, right? It's like putting, I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like, it's like eating too much food. It's like I've eaten too much food and I can't digest it, and I just feel like I feel high sometimes. Like if I've taken on and I'm trying to alchemize someone else's emotional situation, I can feel it because I feel like almost like high off of the emotion. Like not high like yay, but like whoa, I feel like drugged in some way. It's a really strange sensation. But if any of you resonate with this, let me know. But it feels exhausting. And this is what I said in the title, like if you feel that being around people is just exhausting and you are somebody who has an open solar plexus, it is quite possible that you are, without realizing, taking in, amplifying, and then not releasing other people's shit. It's really important to know how to do those things for yourself. Like everyone will be different, right? Everyone will be different. And I'm still not somebody who is, I'm not someone who loves like big social gatherings or parties or any of that stuff. I never have, ever since I was a little kid. I just feel that what has happened as I've gone through this deconditioning process, and as I continue to, it's a lifelong thing, right? As I continue to decondition the patterns and the kind of, I feel like it's like a trapdoor that you like fall through, like, oh fuck, I fell in it again, made that mistake again, damn it, I tried to alchemize someone else's emotion, fuck, you know, because we've probably done that since we were a little kid. We probably took a lot of responsibility for other people's emotions because we could feel them in such an amplified way that we just keep doing it for our entire life unless we really consciously and mindfully decide that we are not going to do that anymore. And one of the biggest pieces of this conditioning here, deconditioning here, is being okay with the other person going through it. Going through it. Feeling what they need to feel. They could be in the depths of the darkest place of their own pits of despair. And how able are we as the open, emotional centered person to be around that without taking it on, without amplifying it, without making it our problem or our responsibility. This doesn't mean, like, for example, if my boyfriend's in just like a real shit mood because he's had a bad day at work or whatever, you know, life happens, we have emotions, you know, I just kind of, you okay? Cool. And then I just remove myself for a little bit. Not like avoidant, not like, oh, fuck you, just to kind of if I can feel that something's moving in his system, I used to want to lean in and like fix it, solve it, take it, and I'll deal with it because I know how uncomfortable that is and I don't want you to have to deal with that. You know, like wide-eyed little kid, like, mommy, daddy, please don't be in pain. Let me take it from you. I just want you to be happy so that you'll take care of me and I'll be safe. You know, like that's where it's coming from. It's inner child shit, right? Excuse me. And I would feel myself doing that, leaning in, wanting to almost like reach into his body and like pull the pain out and be like, I'll do that for you. Oh, martyr, let me take your pain. You know, like what load of bullshit. But the thing is, people with a defined emotional center are built for it. They are built for the emotional processing. They have an emotional fucking wave. So what I've noticed is the more and more comfortable I get with just witnessing other people in their emotion, and I used to feel like, am I like really fucking cold? Because when I really would see someone going through it, if I was being really true to me and being like, do I actually feel anything about their situation? It's like, well, no, not really. You know, like someone could have a bereavement and I don't know the person they're grieving. And at one point, I'd be like, oh, let me take your grief, you know? Whereas now, if someone's grieving, if I didn't know the person they're grieving about, I might be able to look at that person in front of me and be like, I might feel sadness because someone I love is in pain. But that's my sadness. If I feel into, if they're like on the pits, you know, if they're like on the floor, like wailing, howling or whatever, if I was to look at how sad they are, do I feel that sad about the situation or not? And I kind of thought there was something wrong with me, because when I really tapped into it, there were times where people were so emotional about things. And when I was really honest with myself, like, do I actually feel anything about this? And sometimes it would just be like, no, I don't have any emotions about this situation. And I'd think, oh my God, am I like some kind of like sociopath or a psychopath, or is there something wrong with me? Like, what the fuck? But the truth is, I didn't have any emotion about those situations. And I know this might sound a bit, I don't know, like, please let me know if you guys are like resonating with what I'm saying here, because even saying it out loud, I'm like, am I a fucking robot? But there were times when I felt like, times in my life where I've been like, oh, you're so sensitive, you're so emotional. You know, when I was a little kid, oh, she's just so sensitive. Why do you cry all the time? And I'd be like, oh. So what I didn't realize when I was a little kid, that I was amplifying and, you know, feeling for everyone else and very overwhelmed by the amount of information and emotion that was kind of around that they weren't dealing with. So it felt like my fucking my fucking job. I didn't understand as a little kid, right? And then as I got older, and I would just be like, Taurus as fuck, you know, like blunt, like, okay, what's the problem? So your undefine makes so much more sense, because yes, that is so familiar. Okay, great, perfect. Glad I'm not alone. Good, okay. Oh my, this is so me. I love it. I love reading your comments. It's like, okay, we're all in this together. Let's go. More energy. Let's go. So when I feel into now, like, that I was making myself wrong, again, this is why, you know, take the pieces that resonate, leave the rest. I definitely felt like I would like amplify. It doesn't mean when I'm feeling something that it's always not mine, okay? I have emotions, I'm not a fucking robot. However, it's about understanding, for me personally, this is my personal reflection, if it resonates, great. For me personally, it's been about understanding that every now and then I will just have a wave of emotion and I will cry, or I will just feel angry and something will just come out. And I don't even really know what it's attached to or where it came from. It's just like, woof. I'll sometimes be watching a movie and it will like pull something out of me. So it's not that I don't have emotions, because of course I do. And sometimes they're really like just under the surface, and it just takes something to like bring them out of me. So of course, to an external person who isn't me, they might think, wow, she's emotional, because they just seem to come out of nowhere. What I have observed about people with a defined solar plexus, from my perspective, is that when they're in their emotional wave, it's almost like it feels, it seems as though they need to feel all of the emotions connected to something before they can get clarity. So they're actually built for that emotional wave. They need it. It's giving them information. It's almost like a digestion process. It's like literally chewing, digesting. So they need it. So we can't take it away from them with our undefined center. And even if we could, we'd be doing them a disservice. So it used to feel very draining when I would have like clients with a defined emotional center. Like, why? Like, I would love these people and be like, why the fuck is it that when I speak to that person, I don't feel drained. When I speak to that person, I do. It's really weird. And then I began to understand the impact that my clients having a defined emotional center would have on me. And therefore, I would notice that when they brought their really big emotional wave into the space, now I just help them understand, like, this is just your emotional wave. And this is you processing. Don't make a decision yet. Don't make any moves yet. And in fact, the wisdom of the open emotional center often helps people with a defined center to be in more acceptance of all of their emotions. So when we're able to just kind of witness someone in their emotion and just be calm, they just get to, it's kind of like giving it back, right? Just give them the emotion back. That is for them to deal with. It's kind of like trying to take their food away from them. They would be hungry, So like you have to let them digest and process their emotions, because that is how they get their clarity. Trying to push or force or fix someone with a defined emotional center, trying to get them beyond their emotional wave too quickly, it's exhausting for both of you. And before I understood that in my coaching business and in the work that I do, before I understood that really important, integral piece of me and how I operate on an energetic level, I used to just think, fuck, I'm never going to be able to scale this business, because the more clients I take on, the more tired I am. Like, I love the work. Like, I love it. I've always loved doing what I do. And yet, why is it that I feel so drained sometimes? And this was a really big part of it. It was just understanding, which is why I ask all of my clients to provide me with their human design chart, so that I know if there's someone with an open emotional center. One of the first questions I will ask them about the, if they're like, I just got this feeling and I feel like, I don't know, I will always ask, is it yours? It's one of the easiest questions to ask. My palms are getting all buzzy. It's one of the easiest questions to ask ourselves as an open solar plexus person. Is this emotion mine? Because if it is, great, feel it. We still have to feel. And it might be really tiring when we do, but we will feel better as a result. So for me, I just saw Joe's comment there about, the movement and everything bringing emotion up. That's such a beautiful point, because I found last year when I was doing a lot of embodiment work around my wealth identity and all of this stuff, I was having big emotional releases when I first started, because there was emotion kind of stored in my physical body, in the cells of my body, that I'd pushed down. And some of it wasn't even mine. Right? My system wasn't able to digest it, so it just kind of squirreled it away in my body, and I've just been carrying it around with me. All this lovely excess baggage, because don't we all love that? So witnessing people in their emotional wave can sometimes lead to, for we unemotional people, for us undefined or open-centered people, it can sometimes lead to a sense of emotional FOMO. So when I was talking about like witnessing someone and being like, is there something fucking wrong with me that I'm not like more upset about what they're upset about? Like, I don't seem to think this is such a problem. One of my friends was like, oh, all maudlin about the Queen dying. And I was like, I've literally never heard you talk about the Queen before. Like, I was like, oh, to be fair, like, I probably didn't handle it particularly well. I was a bit blindsided. I was like, huh? And they were really upset about the Queen dying. And I was like, okay, I have no emotion about this at all. Like, nothing. And so I was a bit confused, like, where is this emotion coming from? But it was there, so I was like, great, you know, feel what you got to feel. But for me, I just had, like, there was nothing at all about that situation. And sometimes, before I understood the open solar plexus, I would see people getting really upset about stuff, and not only would I question, like, is there something wrong with me? Am I just like completely fucking broken, or just like a robot? Do I have no empathy at all? That was part of it. And then the other part was kind of like this emotional FOMO, like, should I be feeling more? Like, oh, maybe I am meant to feel more. Which would almost, it was almost like a way that I would kind of gaslight myself into over processing for somebody else. I would convince myself that like there was something in this, I should be feeling more emotional. And so I would like allow myself to like amplify their emotion. Yeah. Is this hitting you guys? Are you going, yes, I feel you, Noli? Love that, Martha. Yeah. That is good. I'm glad to hear it. So something I've noticed as well about people who have done maybe no deconditioning work on their open solar plexus is how addicted to drama they are. So what I notice is it's not even drama in their own life. Sometimes people get addicted to the drama that is in other people's lives, and I'm like, why are you telling me about these people that I don't know these people? Why are you telling me about the dramatic things that are happening in their life? And I'm always, again, like, I'm kind of confused. Like, am I gonna, I don't know any of these people that you're telling me about, but why are you what? So I would also notice, like, you know, I used to have friends, and not so much anymore. There are a few people in particular I can think of, like from past life, where they were so addicted to I mean, I was definitely like that as well, so please don't get me wrong. Like, I will own for sure I was like addicted to the fucking heightened emotions of, you know, I wanted to be a fucking actor. Hello. Like, I was addicted to like the drama of like, you know, the relationship with so much passion and so much hate and so much love and so much fire, and one minute they're pinning me against a wall by my throat, and the next we're making passionate love and they never want to be away from me. You know, like, I've had those fucking relationships and it sucked balls. But when I was in the relationship, it was like, this is like the movies. You know, this is how love is meant to feel. If I didn't feel like it was somehow fucking wrenching my insides out, and I didn't feel pain, or like didn't feel all the time, like feel it, like, ah, if I didn't feel it all the time, then is this real? You know? And imagine that. Imagine bringing that level of fucking like reactivity and addiction to sensation, like heightened sensation, bringing that into your business. No wonder people have fucking high months, low months, this client, that client, everything falls apart, everything blows up, everything is phoenix from the ashes, because you're addicted to the fucking drama. You're addicted to the sensation. Because it's almost like when you have this center open, it's like, what does traction feel like? Is this hitting you guys on board? It's like, how do I know this is working if I can't feel something about it? And we get this kind of really confused messaging in our systems about what feels good. we get addicted to the highs and the lows and the peaks and the troughs. And when we're in peace, like when we just feel peaceful or contented or satisfied or happy, and it's not like, we kind of feel like something's wrong. Am I allowed to just feel okay? Am I allowed to just like feel peaceful and satisfied and happy and successful? Yeah. Yes, you are. So when we're addicted to the drama, it is like an addiction. It feels very weird. And in a way, it feels kind of wrong at the beginning. It almost feels wrong to not be like pushing more or having more reactivity or more heightened emotion about things. Because we've been so conditioned in our systems to feel that that is normal. But for an open solar plexus person, it's exhausting. We can't do it. It's like running and running and running and running and never eating anything, never resting, never hydrating. It's like you're just constantly running on adrenaline the whole time. So of course you burn out. Of course you get sick. Of course your relationships are fucked because you're addicted to the drama. So again, another great way of starting to decondition this is just to, bear in mind I've been actively doing this work for between 3 and 4 years now, like actively noticing the patterns, understanding them, understanding my personal patterns, how they play out in various areas of my life. This is not I just take this pill and then I feel better. This is a process. And it's just that sometimes people will pick up a book and be like, oh, okay, yeah, human design, great, put it down. But when you actually choose to start to embody and digest the wisdom and let it help you make your life better, sometimes you're going to have to do things that feel uncomfortable at first, but that's because you're working against like a dysregulated pattern to create a more regulated, delicious feeling one. And reconditioning the body to understand that it's actually safe for you to feel peaceful. It's safe. You don't have to feel under attack internally all the time. Yes, interesting. Sneaks in every so often. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah, Kat, so this, relating it to business, and then Martha talking about stressing about where you are. It is almost one of our favorite sabotages, when things are just kind of okay, when things are just good, rather than thinking like, ooh, maybe if I just keep moving from this energy and keep amplifying again, palms are like warm, throbbing over here. No, I'm referring to the emotional center, the ESP, emotional solar plexus. It's like just off to the side. The G center is right in the middle. But we can talk about that another day. Why not? I've got things to say about all of this. So, thinking about like stressing out or creating stories with our mind about why it's not safe or why it's not okay or the other shoe's going to drop. A lot of that stuff is connected to having an open emotional solar plexus. But yeah, that doesn't mean that people with a defined one don't have that stuff also. It just, I've noticed that for me personally, understanding my own unique rhythm and what I need to bring myself back. When I'm on my own, I'm really pretty fucking chill. Like, I'm just happy pottering around. I chat to myself. Always making like a little chirping bird. Beep, 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 beep. So we're actually pretty chill generally when we're just in our own energy. And we tend to have those heightened emotions when we're around. Do you look at the transits? I don't. I have friends who do, but again, I'm very much somebody who I'm more interested in how I feel in my body. And then if I feel like something's a bit wonky, I might look at something. But I think I'm just I just like to just feel what's happening in my body. I feel like I know when I feel in alignment, and I know when I feel like there's something a bit wonky. And for me personally, taking in more information from an external source like that can kind of take me out of the experience. But that's just a personal thing. You know, I'll look at like what's going on in astrology or whatever, but usually it will just pop up on my Instagram and I'm like, oh, interesting. Yeah, I was just talking about that today. That kind of thing, rather than being like, right, it's the Lionsgate portal, we have to do this. I kind of do it the other way around. Like, rather than mapping out what astrology or what transits are happening or using that as like a guide, I tend to do it, if I'm going to do it, I do it the other way. And also, I don't really, once it gets into all that stuff, that feels too heady for me with this particular modality. And I have friends who are like way better at that shit. So if I'm really interested, I ask them. I'm like, Kelly, can you tell me about what the fuck is happening? Or she'll just drop something in our group chat and I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. But I'm very mindful these days about, you know, because I'm open up here, I'm very mindful about how suggestible I can be to external information. Even from like scrolling Instagram or just overhearing somebody talking about something, I'm very mindful of how susceptible I am to information around me as well. So the most important piece of any of this for me is making sure that I feel grounded in my physical body, in my physical channel. So again, even listening to this stuff, if it resonates with you guys, great. If it doesn't, that's okay as well. I'm not attached. I'm not precious about the information or my perception. Next week you might come back and I'd do a live about this and I'd have learned something completely different. So, you know, it's all just take what resonates, leave the rest. So I just want to check that I've covered all of the points that I wanted to in my usual haphazard, it's all just pouring out of my face kind of way. If any of you have any specific questions or want clarity on any of it, then please ask. So the things I wanted to cover were addiction to drama. We've done that. What you'll also notice, potentially, is that the more you get into your heart says, so your heart center is defined. Your heart, again, heart, will, ego, that's like 3 names for the same center. That's also a different center as well. And that is fascinating. Mine's open, undefined. So yeah, I always find it really fascinating to work with people with a defined heart because I can really feel it in my body. And it's just a really interesting energy. So yeah, with this emotional addiction to drama and emotional FOMO piece, what you may also find is that you may find like addiction to people, certain people who, you may find that as you do this kind of deconditioning work, as you're healing yourself, that other people around you that are kind of addicted to drama and perpetuating drama cycles in their life, you just start to naturally they just fall away because it's like, oh, I'm not going to try and step in and help you fix this anymore. You have to do it on your own. And as much as we can be a guiding light or be, you know, have empathy for people and offer them advice or wisdom or support, at some point there comes a point where it's like, okay, you are just perpetuating this drama cycle now. This is not even your drama, but somehow you're so caught up in other people's drama, like, I am just, off you go. So, you know, be aware, as with all of this work, when you start to detangle yourself from all of your unhelpful conditioning and come more and more back to who you are at your core, there's going to be things that crop up that might be uncomfortable, conversations that you have that, again, not comfortable, but they're necessary for you to continue on your growth path. So over empathizing with people, I mean, that's kind of an obvious one, right? we've kind of covered that. Like just being so empathetic that it's almost like when this open center is just left to just run fucking haywire and completely like never looked at, if it's just running in its negative shadowy conditioning, it will fucking love to over empathize for people, and it's almost like it will just eat other people's emotions for breakfast and make you feel terrible. But what can happen is, this is when this starts to happen for clients, I notice it, and I will often say to them, you know, you can't get, it's an Abraham Hicks thing, you can't get sick enough to make a sick person well, and you can't get poor enough to make a poor person rich. So over empathizing with people, and to kind of like, sometimes I think we do it because we're like, if I over empathize with you, then you'll feel better, and then we can all move forward together, and won't that be lovely? But actually, it's really important again to be running it through your own internal authority. Like, is this my emotion? Is this my fight? Is this my battle? And in fact, is this something I just need to hand back to that person because they have the resources? It's like trying to solve a maths puzzle if you're shit at maths, but the other person's really good at maths, right? They're like a fucking mathematician over there. They're a maths professor. Okay, and you're over here going, well, I know 2 and 2 is 4, but beyond that I haven't got a fucking clue. It's almost like you taking their maths puzzle and trying to fucking solve it, when you could just say, do you know what, I know that's going to take you a while, but you are the person with the resources to deal with that. I haven't got the resources, like, you've got to deal with that. And then they will get the satisfaction of solving their puzzle. Do you see what I'm saying? So alchemizing emotion for other people. You may have witnessed a little bit of this if you've ever done any clearing work with me. Sometimes I will burp or something because, like, when I'm tuned into someone, it is almost like I can kind of shamanic shit. It's almost like I can kind of feel, and then it's like it pops a little bubble and I do a burp or a cough, or my tummy will grumble, or like I'll cough or something. And yes, it's me shifting energy, but they still are doing the processing in their body. And there was a time when I did a process called the spiral, which is all about reprogramming emotions, like deconditioning and reprogramming your core emotions. So yeah, I was really good at it, but fuck me, did it drain me to do that kind of work. Because it's quite a shamanic process, like a, you know, shamanic element. And so I would be kind of, you know, eliciting that emotion, amplifying it, and almost reflecting it back to them without realizing. So I was so drained by the end of doing those processes that I kind of had to go, I don't know if I want to take people through this journey anymore. It doesn't actually sit well with me. It makes me feel really tired, like drained. And I would notice that because of the nature of that particular modality, that particular journey, I would notice that, like, I would feel like crap. And I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I like hate myself. I've got this self-loathing. I've got this, oh, we're clearing shame this week. And I would literally be feeling the shame, all of the shame just like bubbling and amplifying in my system. And I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore. This is not for me. Like, let the people who can handle more emotion in their systems, let them fucking do this process. Because for me, I just got to a point where it didn't feel good anymore. Oh yeah, don't take responsibility for other people's emotions either, by the way. And also, something that the open solar plexus has a tendency to do is project emotions onto other people. So we can sometimes, because we don't just feel the emotion, we amplify it, right? If your center is open, you kind of amplify the sensation. So because of the amplification, it feels very overwhelming and a lot bigger in our system, like, whoa, this is a lot. So we can have a tendency to kind of project that that is how the other person is feeling, when actually they might have that emotion running, but they don't feel it in that overwhelmingly amplified way, because again, they've got the system in place, in their body, in their makeup to process that. So it's kind of like someone who drinks coffee every day having a coffee. It's like they're just used to it. Someone who never drinks coffee, having like a triple espresso, they're going to feel fucked to be like, whoa, how can you have coffee every day? And it's like, well, because my system's just used to it. Like, I don't feel bad if I don't have it, but I don't feel bad if I do have it. Like, I'm just used to it. It's kind of that, right? Although they naturally have it, they naturally are able to process emotion in a way that that open solar plexus just feels like, whoa, fuck, that's so much. And because of that amplification, we want to save them. We want to be like, wow, this must be so hard for you. Like, let me help you. But the likelihood is they're not actually feeling it in the intensity that we are. Yeah, Jane, that's interesting. Oh, Claire, it definitely will show an emotional center. I would say rather than looking at the chart, go to the My Human Design app. It's free. So it's not like I'm not an affiliate or anything. I just think it's a really great way to get started. Go to the My Human Design app, put your information in there, and it will literally lay it out for you. And it's got little audios and stuff that you can listen to. And then you can upgrade and pay for more information if you want. But even the free stuff is just really helpful. And then I really recommend this book, which I've linked in the resources section in this group. If you go to the guides, there's a resources section, and there's a link to this book. So yeah, I highly recommend that as well. Right, what else did I want? I just want to make sure that I've clarified everything I wanted to say. It's basically been a fucking masterclass, let's be honest. Yeah, detach from the need to fix, because they have an emotional wave and it is their emotional wave, not ours, okay? They need to digest and feel the emotions so that they can find some kind of resolution. What I've also noticed is like, so the emotional center, it can't be rushed in the decision-making process, and nor should it be. So if we keep poking and poking and poking, there's a difference between being like, if at any point you want to speak through this, or you just want someone to, you want to talk about it, or you just want somebody around or whatever, like, just let me know. Like when you feel like if there is anything going on that you want to talk about, like, I'm here for you, versus kind of like, why are you feeling that? How are you feeling that? What's going on? Why don't you tell me what's wrong? I know there's something wrong. Just tell me what's wrong with you. I can feel it. I'm an empath. That was one of my favorites. Do you understand that, like, this is my job? So like, I'm used to understanding when people are feeling emotion, and I can tell that you're feeling it right now, and it's really fucking annoying me that you won't trust me enough to tell me. People pay me for this shit, and he's standing there like, I'm fine. And then I'm the one going crazy in the corner, like, why won't you talk to me? I'm an expert. He's just like, okay, Nolly. Whereas now, I understand, like, I used to even try and push him to make decisions. Like when we were going on holiday, my sacral's like, let's go, let's do it now, let's go, Manny Jen, let's go. And he's like an emotional generator. So he'll take a little bit more time to figure it all out. He's also a Libra, so he's got to weigh all the pros and the cons of every single thing. But now that I lean back, I realize my role as the sacral manager is be like, oh, let's do this. Right? I've had the nudge. I've had the woo, yeah, that would be fun. And then I initiate with the manifestor part of me, like, we should do this. And then he will go, Now, that's where I get to just lean back and be like, okay, this is happening. I just need to let him kind of like work through his own wave rather than trying to control it. And what happens is he'll do the research on hotels. He'll look at all the information. I can't be fucking asked to do any of that shit. So it's also understanding that we're not the best at everything. We're the best at some stuff, and then other people are going to be better at other things than we are. And it's like, great, let them be. Let him be better at organizing travel and researching. Let me be the one who's happy to just be like a fucking firecracker and come into the room and go, right, we're going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Let's make it happen. I've booked flights. You can figure out where we're staying. Like, it works because we are different. Understanding the differences and knowing that if he's in an emotional wave around deciding something, or he's feeling some emotions about something, the best thing I can do is give him the space to do that. And if he wants to talk about it, like, put that offer forward, But you know the great thing? I used to think that made me, like, if I just let him deal with his own emotions, I used to think, God, am I just being really avoidant? Am I being a shit girlfriend? Look at me. Just, you know, my boyfriend's mum passed away this year. And there were days when I was having the best months in my business that I've had so far this year. They began that month. And so I was in that kind of duality moment of like, I feel really excited about what's happening in my business. And obviously I feel like sadness about what's happening here. But like, it was the craziest thing because I was able to still be excited about the things I was excited about. Whereas a few, you know, even a year ago, maybe even like 8 months ago, I would have dulled down my excitement or allowing myself to feel excited and happy about what was happening in the expansion of my business because I would have had this idea that it was going to negatively impact him. But actually all that happened was he was feeling his emotions, I was feeling mine. Sometimes they were matching and we would, you know, feel sad together or whatever. But at no point did I feel guilty for celebrating. It's not like I was waving it in his face, you know, like, woohoo! But at no point did I feel guilty for feeling good, even though he was feeling really bad. And it also doesn't mean that I didn't have big waves of grief as well for this person, you know? So deconditioning the open emotional center also allows us to kind of release the guilt about not always feeling how everyone else in the room is feeling or how we think we should feel. I feel like that's had some people go, huh, if you're one of those people, tell me in the comments. But that was quite groundbreaking for me. And just little things like understanding that sometimes what is right for me might be doing something that from the outside would look like, how could you do that? How could you not go, you know, how could you not go away with him? How could you not be there? And I'm like, well, because it felt better for me to be here. For both of us, it felt better for me to be here rather than in the UK, you know? So it's kind of, it's allowed me to, and it doesn't mean, this is the other piece, it doesn't mean that I didn't feel sometimes like a little bit of discomfort about the disparity between our emotional states. Sometimes I would feel like, wow, this feels uncomfortable almost that I'm so happy in this moment. But that was part of it. It was like, oh, I am noticing that discomfort, and rather than letting the discomfort become like a pressure in my body that makes me try and generate emotions that aren't congruent with how I actually feel, rather than doing that, I just feel the discomfort, let that be what it is, and then continue to engage with the emotions that were true to me. Yeah? Yeah, it is tough at the beginning, Catherine, for sure. It is, because we've been conditioned, right, that that's what's expected of us, but actually it's not. And it's that moment, it's like riding that moment of discomfort and reminding ourselves that how I'm feeling is how I'm feeling, and that's my emotion, and how they're feeling is how they're feeling, and that's their emotion. And as much as we are all connected on some level, we're also having separate human experiences, and it's okay for that to be the case. So yeah, that can be a toughie. Cool, just a couple of extra bits I want to make sure I get in. Yeah, so I've noticed that like trying to push or force him to share his emotions with me or to make a decision before that emotional wave is truly passed, it's like it just creates pressure, and almost like it creates more distance between us, or it did create more distance between us. And it would also create like this sense of pressure and frustration in my body to like find a resolution, rather than being like, okay, cool, so I like, part of making this decision is his, and I need to wait for him to find his peace with whatever decision he's going to make. So for now, what can I get clarity on? What can I take action on? Okay, I'll go over here and do that. So it's learning how to know what's yours and what's not. And I've put, eventually you won't need to fix or feel the same intense pressure. It just, and this is why it's called deconditioning work, right? It's about understanding that there is another choice, and over time, more and more making the other choice, making the choice that supports you, your unique expression, who you actually are in the world. And then the people who don't align with you will naturally kind of just fall away. And again, then you get to deal with your emotions about that. Isn't it fun? So the final thing that I have to say is, when it comes to business, for example, particularly if you're in the coaching industry or if you have any aspect of like dealing with other people in your business, being able to allow other people to feel their emotions and you just feel yours, or if there's nothing moving for you at that time, being okay with this sense of just openness and peace. What it really does is it means that you're no longer wasting your energy. Because if you are trying to fix or solve or create resolution before someone's emotional wave has fully passed, you are swimming upstream. And all that's going to happen is that they're going to come to their conclusion, they're going to come to a resolution and come to their peace with their decision. And you're going to be exhausted because you've been like, what about this? What about that? What about, can I help you with, what about, have you looked at it this way? Or da-da-da-da. And it's that kind of frenetic, frantic want to solve and detangle the emotions for them because you've got some clarity. It's like, you can feed some clarity in there. However, the other person, if they have a defined solar plexus, they still need to ride their wave before they get clarity. So very often I will ask now, when I know a client or a friend or my boyfriend is in their wave, I will just ask, do you feel like you actually need a reflection, or do you need support right now, or are you just processing? Do you just need space to process? Because open will center comes into play. I used to feel like I had to do more. I have to do more. I have to prove that I can help them. Whereas now it's like, actually, I don't have to prove anything. I just want them to get the results that they want. And sometimes that means me actually taking a bit of a back seat and letting them just process what they're processing. And then when they've got clarity, then we can take it to the next level. But I can't do that work for them. So I hope this was helpful. It was a lot of information and it was scattergun approach as usual. I'd love to know what is the main thing that you are taking away from this before I disappear. Was this helpful? Did you enjoy it? Would you like more? Tell me the things. And you know, I said on my Insta stories today about this live stream, like, I don't claim to be a human design expert. I don't do like human design readings or whatever. I just work with it in my 6-line way and kind of take the nuggets of wisdom that resonate, chomp on them, digest them, live with them, observe other people working with the modality and how it impacts them. And I just kind of feed through what information feels relevant to help people move forward in life. So some of the things I've said might resonate to people who have a defined emotional center, but maybe somewhere else in your chart is open and you notice a pull in that direction. So, you know, this isn't gospel. This is just me using the open solar plexus as like an entry point to share more wisdom about more things. It's about me using that entry point to just open the channel and see what comes out in support of wherever you are right now. So I hope that it's been helpful. Thank you so much for being here. I am very excited about doing these live streams. I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, it is real. It is real for sure. And that means there is a solution, right? And you're like, oh, this is actually a valid thing. Like, it's real. Okay, cool. So that must mean there's a solution. There's another way to feel, another way to see it. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here live. You're the bestest. I love you. Bye.